When you take a $100 prize pool and an open entry field, you are throwing together the ingredients for a spectacular event. And tonight just so happens to be the sequel. Welcome along, ladies and gentlemen, to the IGLeague Cash Cup, where we witness a potential 32-driver showdown for the Cash Cup prize pool. We continue the American dream here at Sebring after an amazing event last time out at Road Atlanta. My name is Zach Sweenham alongside Dean Hopton in the commentary booth, and we are here to talk you through the plethora of action in store for us this afternoon. And well, Biggles, it's Sebring. It's a bumpy way around. It's a circuit that really hasn't been resurfaced for a long time. That really does come to fruition. It's a very, very tricky circuit, and you can tell it's one of those circuits that even looking at it from face value, you know it's a tricky one.
It also used to be on the Formula 1 calendar, and it's in Malaysia, of course, where it rains a lot, but of course no problems with that here in the iRacing world. I've seen my fair share of rain today. The stream may be a little laggy. Please let us know out there if it is, because I'm restreaming to restream, and I saw a couple of early dropped frames, so if it is a problem, we might have to go to a backup before the action gets underway for the qualifying. And just so please let us know out there. I'll be watching both, and if I do see it a little bit too choppy there, Zach, we'll have to switch up to a backup. But for now, we'll go with it. There's the information for the track map there, Zach. And would you like to, well, because there is no standings, because this is a one-time thing.
It is, yeah. No, it's a race-by-race thing. Not exactly a championship of sorts, but more a mini event. Of course, as we say, the cash prize, $100 in total, with 65 going to the winner. And then, of course, the rest of it separated between second and third. Talking of the last time out at Road Atlanta, it was about 9 days ago on the 9th of December. It was Daniel Sedgley that took pole position. He was able to convert that into a victory during the race. He was followed by Dylan Gonez and Darren Ruthwood in the podium places in the race. Clayton Davis and Ben Barnes, P4 and P5. I believe both of them are returning for this event. Having a quick look at the time and tower so far. Yes, indeed they are. So we have got 4 of our previous top 5 here returning today, and all of them are going to want to try and make a return, or if they were 4th and 5th, going to try and get themselves into that top 3 to claim that prize.
And get some cash. Absolutely. That's what it's all about.
Pays for the takeaway, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. It certainly does. Exactly. Actually, I paid for the plane ride over here. I just had to ride there from Monza and got a short, well, not really a short flight. It's probably about 12 hours and change to come all the way down here to Malaysia. Hang on. Are we not in Malaysia? No, we're not. We're doing a different track altogether. You got me covered. Don't worry, you have me covered.
I do. So basically, for anyone that doesn't know, Dean Hopton has just come off the back of the VCO Flex Stream broadcast for the Challenger split. He did a full monstrous 9 hours straight in the commentary through a race that didn't actually have that much in terms of racing action. He is exhausted, ladies and gents. So do cut him just a little bit of slack. I know it's going to be hard. It's hard for me too, but let's take a breather. It's Christmas spirit. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and let him settle in and just take it nice and easy. He deserves a bit of a break. It's nice that he's here. Of course, he's the main man in terms of the production feed, so it is a pleasure to have him in the commentary booth alongside me as well. But with that, Biggles, we've got practice over and done with. 10 minutes in the qualifying session. How crucial is a lap time round here? Is the track position going to be the be all and end all?
Always qualifying is, and I apologize, I've been calling you Zach, and this is how you're Zach.
Yeah, honestly, Zach. I'm so offended.
How do you pronounce it correctly? Just to let me know.
It's just Zach. It is just Zach, because my full name is Zachary. So obviously,
I thought I was saying
it
correctly. Apologies if I.
You do. You say Zach. You say Zach. So no, it's just you spelt it wrong. I feel offended.
Oh, I've spelt it wrong. I thought it was. Yeah, sorry. In the overlay, yes, I did. That's that's okay. I will fix that. I'm basically typing it how I spell it. How I say it and not spell it. Anyway, yes.
You've got to when it comes to commentary, particularly when you do get a couple of funny names. You've got to sort of spell it phonetically, so when you're reading it out, you don't make the same mistake. I do get that a lot. Waiting for a couple of cars to take to the track. This is David van der Waal from the Netherlands in the BMW at the moment. Of course, after the Week 13 BOP changes towards the end of last season, the final season of 2022, there was a couple of changes in terms of the balance of performance to GT3s. Out of it, the BMW has seemed a fairly dominant car in terms of the car choice for the GTs. Of course, I know you don't really have an extensive amount of racing experience yourself, but from what you've seen in the world of iRacing, do you agree that the BMW is the car of choice?
In the world, yeah. I've just come from a GT race course, but that was ACC, so that's a little different kettle of fish that some of the drivers were using. But yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, but the BMW has been the choice of car recently, for sure, with the recent modifications. We're on board right now. You can give us a hot lap around this track if you like, and from the perspective there of the Dutch driver in the BMW.
Yeah, of course, with the Fanatec wheel as well. So we were actually talking about this yesterday in a bit of touring cars in terms of the BMWs and the Bentleys using the actual sim racing rim that they use in the real life cars in the sim as well for their direct drive wheels. So yeah, it is awesome to see. You can see Van der Waal using the full amount of track possible running through the Le Mans curve. Very, very crucial corner to exit you down this back almond straight towards Sunset Bend. I'd say one of the most fun corners on this circuit. It's so fast, so flowing, and very, very bumpy as well. You really do have to be careful. Aim the car in. You can see Van der Waal trying to take the latest apex possible to then run the car to the extremities of the circuit. Get on the power as much as you can. And exiting the final corner, is it going to be a hot lap for Van der Waal to try and set the benchmark in terms of pace across the line? And it's not quite going to be a valid lap on this particular occasion. So he's going to take us around through turn number 1, a very fast flowing corner. You really do have to chuck the car in and trust that it is going to stick to the outside of turn 1. You can see there a lot of grass being cut because it's not an easy corner to not run right through. The kink of turn 2, under the brakes for turn 3. Again, a prime overtaking opportunity if you can stay close through 1. Into turn number 4, again, that kink through 5, and then through the big bend. This is completely flat out and sets you up for the hairpin at the end of this very quick flat out section. We're going to see, I'd assume, a lot of carnage and chaos going into there during the race.
I certainly hope so. That's what it's all about. Hey, well, I'll go in the chat there, out there, Hydra. Just let us know what those levels are. Okay, I think we're still green light on the broadcast at the moment, and my gigabit fiber is working all as planned. Every once in a while, drops a couple of frames, but it's going to be nice and smooth. We want to bring those pictures as the best possible quality we can, as well as David, I'm sure, wants to get the number 13 BMW across the line as quickly as possible. You can see nobody's set times just yet as well, too. So probably a lot of invalidations early.
Yeah, I mean, Sebring is a circuit that it is quite easy to actually get those invalidations, you wouldn't think about that, because right now we're watching Van der Waal in towards sort of the tight and twisty section of the circuit towards the latter third of the lap. It is fairly difficult to actually make an invalidation that will gain you time. You can see there goes Ridpath to set the benchmark 2:01 dead. As it stands, is there going to be anyone else that can try and match that? Sophia Ridpath is the person that has been able to set that benchmark time, of course, in the BMW. So, well, I mean, it speaks volumes. There goes Dylan Gonas, the Canadian, in the very vibrant Ferrari. I do quite like that livery. 8/10 off the pole position benchmark as it stands. That is a long, long time, but of course, with still half the session left to go, you would expect these times to start coming down.
Clayton Davis currently at the moment, the number 2 car. As Ben Barnes for the other Ferrari has a time, and David does get it just when we actually zoomed away, didn't it? From the Dutch driver, he goes to the top of the timesheets. Yes, I was just looking at the telemetry at the moment. There's a couple of drivers with 2 next to the name, just like I do in iRacing, because I did the wrong thing of creating an iRacing account on Steam first, which is not very helpful, and then had to create a next one with the other proper from the iRacing itself. I'm not sure if you've ever done that before, my friend, but it's... yeah, don't do it out there. I'm sure everybody is aware of it.
No, I did it right first time, because go me. No, I had the help of Lewis McGlade. He was like, yeah, get iRacing. I'll give you a hand. And he managed to sort me out, because it was, I think it was last year Christmas, they gave you 3 months for £6 or something like that. So I was like, all right, sweet, I'll give it a go. Turns out that is only the start into a very deep plunge pool of a lot of money. Yes. So I got about £150 in. I was like, yeah, no, this is too much for me. I can't sustain it. And since then, I haven't renewed my membership for a while, which is sad, because I really do enjoy iRacing, particularly when the IRO4 came out. I love that car. It's so much fun to drive and such good racing. But after that, I got to a point where I was like, yeah, no, I'm not buying the track this week. What's the track next week? Oh, I don't have that either.
Yeah,
what's the track that I can actually race at? It's just a waiting game to see what you can afford and when. Because, yes, I could have bought the tracks, but then I wouldn't have enough money to fund my Just Eat habits, and I can't be having that.
Well, it's a problem from a production and casting world as well, you know, that I've had to spend at least $1,500 to buying tracks, and of course with an ongoing subscription. But, you know, an initial investment that you don't get back Obviously, so some casting you get paid and so forth, but you don't get a lot. This is not a big money-making business, and you've got to invest to buy all those tracks. So I had to buy every single track, of course, for every single one of these races we broadcast. Thankfully, not all the cars. I needed to buy one, but that's the one thing that iRacing probably should look out for, because Race Room do it quite well. Where Race Room, you actually put a command next to the executable, which is slash, and it's kind of like a spectator mode. So you can't drive it all, but you can spectate any races that go on, and it's for free for you. And I think iRacing kind of should look at doing something like that for the broadcasting board, so we don't have to make all those purchases, because I never drive.
Yeah, no.
I got no time to drive.
I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, joining the esports team, I was talking to Will Chadwick. Team Fordzilla for him fund like 2 full iRacing accounts. I'm like, decent, mate. That's fair enough. But yeah, Will Chadwick, very nice guy. Taking a look actually at the actual racing action, God forbid we have a look at what's going on in qualifying. It is David van der Waal that still leads the way. 2:02.23 is the benchmark, though. The previous pole sitter at Road Atlanta, Daniel Sedgley, will join him on the front row provisionally with about 2.5 minutes left to go. Half a tenth back is him. Then comes Sophia Ridpath in P3 and Matthew Vykov in P4 to round off the second row of the grid. With just over 2 minutes left to go, we are already into the final couple laps of qualifying, Biggles, and well, this is crunch time. I don't actually think David van der Waal is going to get back out on track in time. He's not. That is the end of his qualifying, so it is all eyes on Daniel Sedgley and Sophia Ridpath.
Yeah, Sophia Ridpath at the moment we're on board with was up the top of the timesheets a little bit earlier. See if the number one car can put itself into the number one position for the qualifying with the dying stages. Trust me, at the moment, mate, after a 9-hour cast, everything's going very, very fast anyway. This blinking, you're going to miss it kind of scenario for the qualifying. No, you're not going to miss
Biggles
it.
He's seeing shapes and colors, really. It's literally all he can see at the moment. He's so desensitized to a broadcast feed. He's like, what is going on? So if we do cut off to watch the crowd cheer on the cars as opposed to the actual cars themselves, you know why.
I'm still
as
hyped.
I said, that's just,
It'll be right.
He's still hyped. He's still hyped. I've got to turn it up to 150% just to bring you back up to speed. 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go in this qualifying session. We're seeing Sophia Ridpath round the final corner of Sunset Bend. I don't think she's actually going to be able to set another lap time, because that itself was an outlap. 1 minute 10 left on the clock, and again, similar to iRace, similar to Race Room, actually, iRacing follows a similar thing where it's like, the timer hits 0, that's it. Tough luck. You can't finish your lap. That is it. So I don't actually think Sophia Ridpath is going to be able to set another lap in this qualifying session. So I think Sedgley is the only person that can actually put a stop to van der Waal. Dylan Gonas, the Canadian, we saw him a few tenths back in terms of qualifying a little bit earlier on, able to improve the gap between the top three, only 2.5 tenths. That is promising.
Very promising. Good to see. That's because it's a showdown between the BMW, Mercedes, and the Ferrari. Only one of the Mercedes. There is actually there's a few more drivers yet to set times, which are in the other manufacturers as well too. We got James in an Audi, and we have Jay in I think it's a Lamborghini. There's Jay actually right on cue, just comes into the picture. Yeah, that's a Lambo. That'll be it, I'd have to say. Don't think anybody else can get a time, as you mentioned, unless this will count from Sophia.
I don't think so. I don't think she has enough time. Yeah, I think Matthew Vykov is way too far. Yeah, going through Big Ben now as the timer hits 0. I don't think that is going to be any changes then in terms of the qualifying order. We will get these standings up as soon as we get them. We do just have to wait for the session to finalize itself. Then we will go through the final grid order for the 45-minute race ahead of the IGLeague Cash Cup, the second installment of it, of course. But well, the top two separate by about half a tenth. The top three, 2.5. I mean, that is a very, very promising lookout for this race, as we said. The top three, those are where the big bucks are scored. I mean, honestly, couldn't have asked for more out of this qualifying session. It's very telling of what we're expecting for this race.
I think Matthew, at the moment, you can see, is probably asking for an extra light on the back of the car, because if you see there's one missing on the Ferrari, on the back of it, where the yellow ring is around it, let's see the second, doesn't have it on the left-hand side, see? Cutting costs there, to cutting weight, perhaps, taking the lighting out, and he has a bit of a spinneroo, but doesn't really matter too much at the moment anyway, because it's all wrapped up for the qualifying. Once again, those results will come up there for a second for you to check out.
But yeah, well, 10 minutes, it went by in a flash. Not very long in terms of qualifying. You did have to deliver straight out of the box. And of course, that did go the way of David van der Waal. So when we do have a look at the final qualifying order, I mean, you can see it there to the left-hand side, but we'll get it done in a nice formal way for you all at home. As we say, 45 minutes on the clock in terms of the racing action here tonight should transfer into around about 22, 23 laps. It is going to be slightly iffy. Of course, where they're doing about 2-minute dead lap times. And of course, 45 is not an even number. Yeah, I know, right? It seems fairly obvious. However, we have got Dean in the booth, so I just had to make sure we clarified it for him. No, yeah, we got Barney there. He's blinded by the lights. He might as well be on a weekend song there with him being blinded by the lights.
Blinded by the light. That's an earlier song than that, my friend. That goes way back into the 70s and 80s. And then again, a lot of songs are repeats of previous songs in the past.
Yeah, so you see, I'm an 06, so I've got all the I've got all the baby songs. I grew up on Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, people like that, you know. So my music taste is rather uncultured.
I've been to a Taylor Swift concert, my friend. My girlfriend dragged me to one in New York one time.
Were you in the nosebleeds?
No, I was in a VIP section, and
ooh.
She goes up and down the aisle, sings up and down. Taylor Swift gets pretty erect. It was a great show. I'm not a massive fan of Taylor Swift, but I like her songs. So just
no.
It's more of a fan of keeping my girlfriend happy than I was.
Yeah, mate. Honestly, it's if she says something, you do it. But no, Taylor Swift is one of those things that it's like I'm a man. I listen to manly songs, and then you pump it off to shake it off in your bedroom at 12 o'clock.
A little different than a Metallica concert that I'd be to, or a AC/DC concert or something like that. It's just a whole different ball game, of course. Rock and roll. Hey, finally, the qualifying results will eventually come up for us to have a look right now.
Of course. Well, here we go. After 10 minutes of qualifying, as we say, it went past in a flash. It is the Dutchman of David van der Waal who takes pole position, half a tenth clear of Daniel Sedgley, who will join him on the front row of the grid. Dylan Jonas and Sophia Ridpath, your second row, with Matthew Vykov rounding off the top 5. Ben Barnes will join him on that third row of the grid. Jay Smart, Tom Weston, 7th and 8th, with Clayton Davis and Ryan O'Connor, your top 10. Rounding off the grid there, Daniel Weston, Stefan Mellis, the Belgian P12, and just in behind him is going to be James Rep for P13. 13 cars on the grid then. Of course, you can see first place getting $60, second place 30, and of course third place taking only 10. We will take around a full formation lap here behind the iRacing Porsche safety car. Then we'll get underway for a rolling start here at Sebring. Biggles, I'm going to give you that age-old question, the one that no one really likes answering. Who's going to win?
I was going to say, you're going to ask me to decide which side of the fence I'm going to be sitting on, isn't it? I knew it. Well, once again, I honestly think it's, to give you a bit of a clue, it's probably going to be a BMW. There you go.
Oh, well done. That's like saying...
yeah, 50% of the field are BMWs, so I've got a 50% chance of getting it right.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know, man. You got to look out for the Dutch recently, haven't they? They've been absolutely blisteringly quick.
They've been on fire.
Yeah. That's Daniel's picture right there. I'm going to hide the picture so that it doesn't cover over the car.
But here we go. I think we do go to a formation lap, though the 5 red lights are a little bit scary. I don't know if we are going to be for a formation lap or just straight to the race. No, we are under a formation lap. Here we go. Yeah, the 5 red lights are a little bit deceiving. Under the safety car, of course, this is a prime opportunity for them to get their tyres and brakes up to temperature. Of course, it's a very niche thing for us to say in the commentary booth, oh yeah, getting their tyres up to temperature, making sure their brakes are up to temperature as well on those open laps. But how important really is it? Because it is very, very important.
You'll see right now, they're not weaving too much to get temperature into there yet. They're only just starting the first part, but also they're at snail's pace behind that safety car that you mentioned right there. You won't see the rear view camera in our spectator mode on the other screen, but they will definitely be seeing it inside the cockpit. David will be, unless he's turned it off and maybe he's chucked in, I was going to say chucked in a DVD and is watching some movies or something like that while he's racing, but certainly not in pole position. He's going to be looking over at that screen, that screen at these cars behind him. Should be Daniel from the United Kingdom right there, starting on front row with him, essentially. Well, rolling start.
it's still going to be a 2x2 formation. So they are still on the front row of the grid. Still about 2/3 of the lap left to go. You can see just in the background there the BMW of Stefan Mellis doing a bit of weaving just to make the most of this formation lap, because the worst thing when it comes to a race start is being caught off by cold tires and not being in the zone. You do have to use the formation lap as a way to hype yourself up, because when it comes to a first lap, there is a lot going on. And for a driver, you have to be in the zone, because it's very much a sink or swim scenario. You can either stay in the same place, go forward, or fall backwards. Yes, well done. No. Yeah, well done. I'm Sherlock Holmes for saying that. Captain Obvious for that one. But it's so true in the sense that it's so easy to go forwards, but it's just as easy, if not even easier, to tumble backwards. So these guys got to make sure they're in the zone.
Going to keep us sharp with the liveries being similar as well, as you can see.
Yeah, they've got to keep us on our toes. You can see the two GZR leading the leading the way with Van der Waals and Daniel Sedgley. It's actually a 1-2-3 for that specific outlets. Sophia Ridpath is representing, but yeah, no, we've got to keep our eye on it. Of course, it is going to be the 13 car on the right-hand side of the shot, left-hand side of the circuit, out inside line for turn number 1. But underneath the safety car, you can see they are lining up in 2x2. One more straight left to go. How would you approach this start if you were in Van der Waals' position?
Hit the lap pedal as loud as possible. And then just hope the car sticks.
Just win the race. Just go fast.
And then
go fast.
Because these first couple of corners are going to be crucial, as you can see coming up on that track map, but to get it all right, because it's a series of right-hand corners.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You honestly, it's as easy as that, isn't it, Biggles? Just drive fast, and you'll win the race.
If you see Barney with the checker flag before everybody else, you know you've done a good job.
Unless you're lapped. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
But yeah, no. Basically, get to the checkered flag first, and you'll win. No way. Anyway, we'll put the sarcasm aside. We'll focus on the racing action. 40 minutes on the clock then here at Sebring. The second installment of the IGLeague Cash Cup about to get underway. Is it going to be a second victory for Daniel Sedgley? Is it going to be a first victory for David Van der Waal? He is going to control the pace as the Porsche iRacing safety car pulls to the right-hand side into the pit lane. The number 13 Dutch driver to the left-hand side. Inside line, of course, for turn number 1. He leads us away. We are go here in Sebring. Barney the flagman waving the green flag to set us underway. You can see Ridpath giving her teammate a bit of a push in towards turn 1. The Ferrari of Gonas trying to look to the inside. Very wide line, of course, for turn 1. Looking to the inside, though. Ridpath with the outside line and the momentum to lead the way in third place ahead of Gonas. Van der Waal, though, a dominant lead, 7/10 clear of Daniel Sedgley, who was just about clear of Sophia Ridpath. Gonas had a bit of a look, though turn 1 was a little bit too wide, and that was too tight on that inside line for him to make the moves. Very, very clean start, though, initially for this race.
Yeah, well, especially if it's supposed to be teammates, but you're not going to be teammates at the end of the day if you want that cash prize more than everybody else. James had pulled immediately into pit road in the Audi, so it doesn't look like he might be continuing in this race or not. You never know if they have technical issues or the steering wheel falls off your rig or something at the last minute. Who knows? But we do know at the moment that there is no changes between the top two. Sophia is into... Well, it says a position gain there for Sophia, but Sophia was in... She wasn't P4.
No, she was fourth.
Yep.
Daniel Gonas, Dylan Gonas, not Daniel. Dylan Gonas managed to pip to third place right at the death of qualifying. We are rounding off the first lap. Well, we're about halfway through the first lap of this race as it stands. As we say, 1, 2, 3 for the BMWs. Then it comes to 3 Ferraris, then a Mercedes, then another BMW, then a Lambo. Then it's 3 BMWs and an Audi to round off the field. So not a very versatile, not a very varied grid of chassis. Let's put it that way. This is Jay Smart in the Lamborghini on the back at the moment of Tom Weston, trying to negotiate his way through in that number 4 machine through the Le Mans curb that leads you back down the Almond Straight for the first time. Prime overtaking opportunity, of course. Are we going to see any changes at the front? Is Sedgley going to have a bit of a look? The answer to that is no. So everyone, I think, just trying to settle into this race. A long way to go.
One of those cameramen getting fired for putting it straight into a palm tree. And I was just wondering to see if you are new school and not old school, if you recognize what the Lamborghini the livery was based off, or not. I can give you a bit of a hint. It's dun 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 dun. It's Wario.
Is it?
From Mario? Yes.
Nice. I didn't actually pay too much attention to the livery itself, but that's a nice little touch there. The FMWs though, that is a very picturesque moment for the three of them, separated by just under a second between all three of the RGZ teammates. Run their way through Big Bend once more. They are gapping Dylan Jonas for for fourth place as they stand in towards Cunningham corner for the moment, or into the hairpin. It's not Cunningham for a couple more corners. Actually, I just reading my track map a little bit wrong. They should very much find me. Sophia Ridpath, though, you can see riding on board with her, running through the left-hander in towards now Cunningham just at the end of this quick little dash. You do have to be very heavy on the brakes, whip it around for a late apex, and then in towards the next left-hander again. It is quite tricky to get a move done here at Sebring. It's a very momentum-based circuit, and you're not on the brakes for very long. I mean, you've got Sunset Bend to try and send a move. You've got turn one to try and send a move, but both of them are very sweeping corners, and you don't depend quite a lot on actually slowing the car down.
That's actually weird to check to see whether or not the drivers are in there, because it looks like the AI bots were driving those L3 cars at line of stern. Well, we do know for exact that Sophia is not a bot, because gaining that position.
Oh, actually, that's very wide from Vanderwalls. Just sorry to cut over there. Going through Le Mans, very, very wide indeed. Has invited their teammate of Daniel Sedgwick to have a bit of a look now to the right-hand side in towards Sunset. Is it going to be a relinquished race lead for the Dutchman? I think that is going to be the case. Sedgley able to settle in just in front as they run their way in. Very, very wide line. They've also lost the place. Sophia Ridpath has lost the place to Dylan Gonas there for third place. So the gap now is between these two, 1.5 seconds clear of third and fourth as they run. What happened to Vanderwall then? It was just such a wide line. I think Sedgley just was like, okay, you can go this wide, but if I put my car there, there's not really much that you can do about it. So Sedgley, up into the race lead, of course, took a fairly dominant win last time at Red Atlanta. He's going to try and stretch this advantage and run away with it.
Yeah, nothing from the race control of a massive off-track or anything to trigger responses for us to bring up a replay, unfortunately, to see that.
Of course, I think that right-hander there at Le Mans is quite lenient in terms of the track limits that you're allowed to use. I mean, we saw in qualifying people using a quite extensive amount of track limits. However, the line itself does leave you quite susceptible to ascend to the inside from a driver in behind. So Sophia Ridpath on the back now of the Ferrari of Dylan Gonas, unable to find a way through as it stands. Again, not quite sure as to what happened to her.
I can show you in this one.
Okay, let's have a quick little look as to what happened. Down the back straight in towards Sunset. And it just seemed maybe a slowdown penalty then. That is the only thing that I can really think about as to why Ridpath lost that place. I think, again, there was nothing really more that they could have explained it. I just don't see where she would have went off track to warrant that slowdown penalty. However, when it does come to Sebring, easily done. This is, however, the move potentially to the outside line in towards the next right-hander, trying to get the up and under. Sophia Ridpath gets it done side by side now as they run out of the exit of the corner in towards now Cunningham Bend. Sophia Ridpath is going to be to the left-hand side of shot, the right-hand side of the Ferrari as well. Now outside line in towards these S's, and she's managed to get herself back ahead into third place. Brilliantly done, and that is a textbook switchback on the Ferrari.
Job done. Absolutely. Like the step and sent it to Santa Claus, perhaps. They get back into that position, but it is only not over with 39 minutes to go in this race. Because if Dylan has to probably think about that, because Matthew in the other Ferrari is looking at catching. I think this is Matthew with the missing tail light there, one of them. And he's also trying like mad to get past the other Ferrari. Now, obviously you got a similar car in this case, so it's only coming down to how much you've managed to tweak it. Whereas the BMWs up the road seem to be a little bit quicker.
The Ferrari has always been a car that it's middle of the road, really. It's good at everything, but it doesn't excel, at least in my experience of the Ferrari. It's good, it's not the best. So you can go to pretty much any circuit and it will work. It just won't go to a specific circuit and excel, essentially is what I'm trying to get at. This is Ryan O'Connor on the back at the moment of Ben Barnes, the fight for sixth between the Mercedes and the Ferrari. Of course, we will focus on this fight here between Dylan Gonas and, of course, Matthew Vykov in towards the old hairpin. Dylan Gonas on the outside, trying to give as much space to his fellow Ferrari. The diagonal merge side by side, a bit of a twitch on the exit, though, from the yellow and black Ferrari. And you can see there the sort of the maroon-brown car just trying to whack his way through as well. Not quite able to get the exit is the number 8 machine, though, tucked up once more and trying to work his way up into fourth place. It's crazy to see how the amount of a fluctuation there is, because not too long ago Gonas was up there in third place fighting with Sophia Ridpath, and now is under a lot of pressure from Vykov. It really does ebb and flow quite a lot.
It does, absolutely. And that's why I was a little bit concerned if Dylan once he lost that place, there's going to be more on a massive attack from Matthew here than having to worry about trying to get back ahead there of Sophia. But early days, it's in little tiny bit of an endurance, so it's going to see how well you've taken care of that car. I said that if you had to pick between the Ferraris and the BMWs, of course, to pick up somebody for one of your dates to take to a fancy restaurant or something, you'd probably take these Ferraris, but unfortunately they don't quite have the pace. But look at this run again.
Now to the outside of Sunset Bend. This is going to be bold, brave, maybe brilliant. Not quite for Matthew Vykov. It's a long, long way round of Sunset. However, he does get the up and under, gets the drive off the corner. A bit of a twitch there from Gonas. Has invited Vykov through in that Ferrari. Easily done, up now into 4th place. Of course, it is going to be to no avail in terms of a bit of dollar at the end of this race. However, it is for a bit of pride just to be able to move up into 4th place and maybe something more. Of course, we do have to take into account the mandatory pit stop over the course of this race. These GT cars only running on a 50% capacity fuel tank, and while GT cars can usually go to an hour, half that doesn't take a mathematician to work that out, that it's going to be 45 minutes. No, I'm joking. It's going to be half an hour stint. So, of course, they are going to be forced to come into the pit lane to take a mandatory stop. And that, again, can have a bit of a factor over the course of this race, while not quite to the extent of an endurance race in terms of the pit strategy. There is a little bit of a strategical factor. When do you come in, and of course, how much fuel do you put in to get yourself to the end? So yeah, a little bit of food for thought there. As you see people over the course of this race, there's Daniel Weston taking a little bit of a trip off to the grass and, well, pulling over and giving up at this race.
Yeah, giving up. I just saw that because it said he crashed. That's not a crash. That's a retirement. And yeah, you're exactly right about the GT cars having about an hour in gas, because after that 9-hour cast that they did about 8 or so pit stop stints. So I know that they could probably about an hour and 4 minutes was about the gas take that they could do, but that's not a problem here. And you're not going to be taking any tyres either. I would imagine you wouldn't need to take any tyres at all.
Not. Their tyres can go easily, I think, double stint. Sometimes you do see an iRacing them do triple stints. So that is an hour pit, fuel, an hour pit, fuel, an hour pit, and then change tyres on that stop. They can do a long way if you nurse them correctly. However, they will not need to do that because it is just going to be a waste of time. With tyres, you're adding a good sort of 20-30 seconds to your overall pit stop time. So you do want to just take the fuel that you need, gas and go, Lightning McQueen style pretty much in his bid for the Piston Cup. Let's see if anyone else can win the IG League Cash Cup with the same strategy. Of course,
you do remember
we'll to see.
Yeah, you do remember that movie, the Cars movie, don't you? On that one, as you referred. Here's one for you. Do you know the names of all the guys? Obviously, the Italian pit stop crew, remember, that were working in that garage. Remember?
What, Lightning McQueen's guys?
No, yeah, no. All the yeah, that's right. They ended up being a pit lane, didn't they? All the Italian.
What, Luigi Guido?
Yeah, I think that's what they all were. Of course, they go absolutely bullet. They would be not wanting to service any of those BMWs today. They'd probably certainly happy to service that Ferrari.
Yeah, the Ferraris.
And the Lamborghini as well. They would probably have a problem with that one.
I do love my Cars references. It's the movie I grew up on. I feel like such a kid. I love it. If I could have Lightning McQueen bedsheets, I would.
Everybody loves the Cars. I mean, it doesn't matter how old or how young you are. It's just one of those feel-good Disney movies.
It's one of those things. You can't not love it. I mean, Cars 2 had so much potential, and if they focused on the racing, it could have been so good. Of course, what would it have been? 6-year-old me was loving it because it was like, oh my god, guns, pew pew, loving it. And Cars 3 as well was a great way to.
Yeah, which was the one that had the. Was it the Italian or the French Formula 1 driver?
Oh yeah, Francesco Bernoulli was Cars 2. Yeah. Honestly, to see him and McQueen duke it out for 3 races would have been great, but no, they focused on Mater and Spies, which growing up is a bit of a disappointment. And that's the thing with growing up. I know I'm only 16, but growing up, it's like, oh yeah, my favorite movie's been ruined because it was just a cash grab.
They wanted to show that not only everybody a part of a team is just race drivers, it's also everybody else. And it doesn't matter if you're a beat-up tow truck or not, you're still a crucial part of the team. I guess that's the message that I'm trying to put. And at the moment, Daniel's sending the message that he's still leading that race, and that's a camera through the... Yeah. So I think they have trimmed a couple of those fawns off the palm tree there.
Would be nice for them to do it for the commentary broadcast. How selfish of them. Over the course of that last lap, though, Sedgley 0.6 of a second quicker than Van der Waals. Sedgley really has got the advantage in terms of the racecraft and the consistency. Of course, didn't quite manage to get to pole position. 46 thousandths of a second was the gap between himself and the Dutchman of David Van der Waals. But now into this race, it is proven that qualifying pace didn't really matter because he hasn't had a drop-off. Oftentimes you do see with drivers, they set a really quick qualifying lap and then drop off in the race. Whereas Daniel Sedgley has kept it at a constant. His qualifying pace was good, not quite good enough for pole, but the crucial thing is his qualifying pace and his race pace go hand in hand. And that has allowed him to be able to get into the lead and consistently run at the lead of this race. Just over half an hour left to go then, and Daniel Sedgley is the man in charge. With the pit stops, things like that, maybe he's pushing a little bit too hard. Maybe he's going to have a little bit more fuel to take come that pit stop sequence. However, David Van der Waals is falling back into the clutches of Sophia Ridpath on that last lap. Sophia Ridpath matching the pace of Daniel Sedgley. 0.6 quicker than Van der Waals, a big drop-off in pace for the BMW.
To the 1, 2, 3s on the track map right there. You can see that gap difference that's forming between P1 and P2. And yeah, it's more of Sophia looking at the rear of the similar livery to the GZ cars. I'm just so curious there as well to Zach. I love it when they go right off the racing line right there. You can get away with that in GT. You get a penalty or a couple of warnings in Formula 1 if you tried that. So, yeah, another question, Zach. Is the pit stop window open all race long?
I think so. I think so. I think that it's not the sense of a set of Corsa Competizione where it's like, okay, you've got 15 minutes to pit. I think with iRacing, it comes down to, unless it's preset. Again, I don't have an extensive knowledge of setting up lobbies and things. I've never seen a set pit stop window when it comes to iRacing, though, at least from my experience anyway. Yeah, no, they can come in at any point. However, they do have to remember that they can only get half an hour on a tank of fuel. So if they pit right at the start of the race, they wouldn't have made it to the end, sort of thing. But the pit window really is starting about now. This is where people can come in and have a viable chance of making it to the end. Talking of battles at the moment, riding on board with Ryan O'Connor in the cockpit of the Mercedes-AMG GT3. Going in towards turn number 3, he's trying to chase after, you can see, Ben Barnes, the number 7 machine, for P6. Closing the gap as much as he can. Ben Barnes and Ryan O'Connor taking very different lines, it must be said, through that corner. However, the gap didn't grow or shrink too much, so it goes to show that there are a multitude of different ways to negotiate a racetrack.
There's always a multitude way of negotiating a racetrack. It just sees which one is the quickest at the end of the day, but sometimes you don't necessarily have to lose a great deal of time. And the rear wing of Ben, the number 7 West Rich Energy car at the moment. That used to be one of the sponsors, of course, of Haas. No longer anymore, but they've decided we'll sponsor Ben instead.
Ben Barnes, standout driver, running P6 at the moment in the IG League Cash Cup. So Rich Energy definitely putting their money in the best of investments as it stands. I had a Rich Energy phase. A couple of Christmases ago, I was like, Mum, can you put some Rich Energy in my stock? And she was like, what? I was like, can I have some Rich Energy? It's actually not that bad. It's just an overly sugary Red Bull.
Ah, yeah. I've never tried it, unfortunately. It's not available here currently at the moment where I am in Panama, until I travel overseas I'll have the opportunity of trying it. But I guess it's just imagine like it tastes very similar to the other energy drinks, but don't tell Rich Energy that, because I don't know.
Of course, yeah, no, Rich Energy. I had a phase as well. I went on GT Sport, made a livery, designed a Rich Energy. They liked my story. I was like, oh yeah, go me, getting an endorsement from Rich Energy. But no, anyway, we focus on the racing action once more. Matthew Vykov is under pressure once again from Dylan Gonas, who, again, these two have been down each other's throats. It's been a weird relationship between these two in their Ferraris. A moment ago, Gonas wasn't quicker than Vykov at all, and now, in this tow, in the slipstream, is actually keeping with and gaining on Matthew Vykov. So through turn 1, trying to close the gap as much as he can to propel himself up into that 4th place. However, it does get to a point, I think, I suppose you can agree with me here with this, Biggles, is that when you're trying to catch a car, you get to a point of, if you're not substantially quicker than them, if you're not sort of 1.5 seconds a lap quicker, you get to sort of that 4 or 5 cents gap, and it becomes a stalemate. You do find it quite hard to actually close the gap over that final couple of tenths.
Oh, you're right. I am familiar with it. It's called Formula 1. That's the reason why they started introducing the different design for the car there to try to increase that racing, because that used to happen a lot, of course, in Formula 1. You sit there, one thing to catch, and it's all very, very difficult to overtake. But not so much here at the moment, because he's putting it down, the Canadian driver, giving it a shot. We'll see if Jay Smart might have crashed, but we'll go back to that after this battle continues.
Trying to, of course, keep the pressure on. And we were literally just talking about how we reached the stalemate, then closed the gap. Was having to give a little bit of a look was Dylan Gonis, the Canadian. Unfortunately, to no avail on this particular occasion, as they run their way through off the exit of that right-hander, running their way towards the final couple of S's and to round off the lap. Dylan Gonis is trying to retain as close as possible to the rear end of the number 8 Ferrari to have that run down the Almond Straight, closing the gap just a little bit, taking a nice wide line to try and take the latest apex possible, gets the run, and this could be the move for 4th place. Dylan Gonis having a look to the right-hand side, giving the inside, of course, for Sunset Bend. Is Vikov going to try and send it the long way around? As we say, it's a long and bumpy way around the outside. Bit of a swap position as well between Weston and Davis just in the background there. Gonis holding firm on that right-hand side. Up now into 4th place. However, Vikov with the supreme up and under might get the drive off. Sunset Bend, look at the gap and the pace difference he gets shooting off the exit of Sunset. Unfortunately, not quite enough. And the pit lane straight here is not quite long enough to constitute a send in towards turn 1. However, you could just tell how powerful that switcheroo was. Roles reversed, 4th place for Gonis, 5th place for Vikov, and I am fairly confident that this battle is far from over.
It's not all in park, is it? Pit lane. Very, very, very long pit lane that we experienced the other day down in New South Wales, Australia. Jay Smart crash that happened a little bit earlier. Let's have a look at the Wario. That probably got a little bit of a wow moment in the Lambo. Right there.
Are you sure it's Wario or is it Lewis Hamilton? Because those are Lewis's colours.
Oh, you are right. Sorry, yes, absolutely. Sorry. It's just that they're also Wario colours, but I couldn't see the reference and managed to keep it out of the fence, but drops place. Currently running a P11.
Still we rise. Unfortunately for Jay Smart, still we rise is not applying to him, down in 11th place, unfortunately, and dead last of those still running. Daniel Weston, James Rep, of course, in the pit lane. James Rep is the race control of this race, so just in the pit lane to oversee everything, make sure everything goes smoothly. And of course, we saw Daniel Weston a little bit earlier on, unable to make it to the checkered flag. Here we watch this fight between Clayton Davis and Tom Weston, separated by only a quarter of a second, and a good old fight here between the two BMWs. Two pretty nice liveries as well, I would imagine. Talking of Cars 2, that BMW in front does look a little bit like All in All, the oil company in Cars 2. But anyway, I digress. Matthew Vikov, we cut to him in his bid to try and reclaim 4th place. Dylan Gonis, though, with a resurgence of pace, able to pull this gap over a second, and for Vikov, that must be quite frustrating.
It's also, yeah, switcheroo here. Sorry, apologies about that one, because the fact that we were in the replay there for a second is why you weren't getting the information up on the screen there. We're watching a replay of a replay of a replay of a replay. Sounds like we're in the middle of the Matrix, but we're not.
What even is real anymore for Dean Biggles? He does not know. Again, after 9 hours, he's very delirious. However, this fight is live. It is real. Well, real in the virtual world. It's real racing, just fake race cars. Sophia Ridpath versus the pole sitter of David Vanderwall. This fight for 2nd place. Oh my word, having a bit of a look to the inside of the left-hander that leads you on to this back flat-out section in towards the hairpin. Sophia Ridpath trying to get the drive off the corner. However, a little bit of too tight of an angle, I think, off the run out of turn number 5 in towards 6, this hairpin, and unable really to mount too big of a challenge. However, is applying the pressure. And that, again, is an art in of itself, is knowing that you're not going to find a way through on this particular occasion. However, being smart enough to try and apply the pressure and force the hand of the driver in front. Is Ridpath going to have a bit of a send? Not quite late enough on the brakes. Playing it nice and sensible as they run their way through Cunningham. Sophia Ridpath, as I say, trying to play the psychological game and force the mistake out of the Dutchman.
That's what you do. Psychological games are at play all the time in motor racing. That's why you send dummies down to make them think in the mirrors that you're going to be sending one down the inside, and you don't. Force them into a little bit of maybe a breaking judge point going wrong, and then sneak on around or up the inside. Whatever works.
Yeah, for sure. If it works for you, it works for you. Again, it's driver by driver. And the good thing is, it's that it's when you know your opponent. It's when you're stuck behind them for a long time. Of course, these guys you would assume are VR Racing teammates. So you know your opponent, and you can but adapt your driving around them. When you're following a driver for quite some time, it's getting to know them, knowing where their strengths and weaknesses are, where you can make that advantage, and then adapting yourself and changing around that to maybe take a later apex here, put some more pressure on here, send a move here. Are they vulnerable to ascend? Are they going to give you the space if and when you do make that move? Having a bit of a look to the left-hand side is Ridpath. That is ascend and a half, though. To the outside line goes the Dutchman, using the sweeper momentum of turn one to be able to stay ahead, but only by a hair. Sophia Ridpath still holding firm on the left-hand side, late on the brakes, of course, as they run their way in towards turn number 3. The fight for second rages on. Sophia Ridpath still having to play second fiddle to Vanderwalls, who holds firm in this bid for second place. Of course, it's a difference of $20 and a difference of only a quarter of a second. So big difference in terms of cash, not so big difference in terms of track position.
Yeah. And this is, in the meantime, it's just helping Daniel essentially just pull on a 3.5 second gap too, because that's how it happens, isn't it? As battles occur, it also brings other drivers into play. 11 seconds, not so much for Mr. Dillon. Once again, you can see there 11 seconds and change with a couple of pit stops to do. Ryan has taken his, so has Tom, as well as Daniel and James. But James actually out of the session. You can see on the track map the 13 car is definitely stationary in pit road. Still showing, but yeah, it's a retirement pit road because it hasn't really even put a lap time in. Retired in the first lap.
Yeah, of course, as I said a little bit earlier on, Rep is only there to oversee the operations of the race. He, of course, is the admin dude, the big boss at the top, organising the events like these. And we've got a little bit of a better turnout as opposed to last time. However, if you do want to get yourself involved for any future installments of the IG Leagues, do definitely head yourself over to the IGL Discord and make sure you put your name out there. Make yourself known, because in the future, they are planning to maybe start a few leagues in the near future. Of course, they don't have many details on it yet, but they'd like to see if they can gather some interest, maybe get a league going. And of course, you might see your name on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel, see your name on that timing tower, and it is a nice thing to get featured on a broadcast. I know from my experience, I do love going back and watching it back and seeing how much airtime you get. There's the send from Ridpath again in towards turn one. Deja vu. However, Ridpath a lot more dominant and assertive on that run through turn one, able to just force Vanderwalls to the extremities of the circuit, forced his hand and forced him to concede. So free Ridpath in that number one machine, now up in a second place, 3.5 seconds back off the race leader Daniel Sedgley. Though you have to argue this is a race for second.
Of course, it absolutely is a race for second. It's going to continue for some time to go unless you build up a big gap. You can see the track map at the moment, the 1, 2, 3. Then you got the 4 and 5 back there with the 4, 5, and 6 are all the Ferraris. The yellow BMW in P7. Just a little bit back there from the P6 position. And we have Stefan heading into pit road, as well as Jay. The first time. Not the Warrior car anymore. She mentioned the Lewis Hamilton livery. Oh, backing up too, you see, from Stefan.
That is awkward.
Yes.
In terms of the pit box, because it's something so trivial, isn't it? Going into the pit lane, stopping, slowing down, not speeding, obviously. But something so quote-unquote easy as just pulling into your pit box, stopping and getting your car up onto the jacks. That is onto the jacks. I want to know if he's taken tyres there.
Yes,
I wouldn't imagine that he would have, unless it's a mandatory tyre change, is it?
No, well, the other cars didn't.
So
yeah.
I'm confused. Maybe there is an option in your black box, of course, F3 to go to your black box in iRacing. And you have an option to change which tyres you want to replace. You can change one, you can change a side, you can change all four. But yeah, I think he's maybe forgotten to change that either in his pre-race strategy or, of course, over the course of this race. Our two race leaders, Daniel Sedgley and Sophia Ridpath, and of course Vanderwalls as well into the pit lane with just under 20 minutes of this race left to go. They're going to be pulling in from their top 3 positions and pulling themselves into fuel up to the end, and fingers crossed none of them have made that mistake. However, if Daniel Sedgley does, that could really spice things up for the remainder of the race. However, all coming in unison and pulling themselves into their pit box, as I say. It's a tricky thing to do when you're under pressure. Oh, that's a mistake there, though, from Vanderwalls. Or, again, as I say, so easy maybe when you're doing practice. Put the pressure on, and you can make those mistakes, and it's a costly one at that. All coming out of the pit lane now. Ridpath ahead of Sedgley.
Yes, it's because of that little pit stop mistake. Cost them a bit. They didn't go up in the jack, so they didn't take tyres. They up in the jacks. They definitely took tires. You saw before. I think that might have been a little bit of a costly mistake there by accidentally forgetting to click that button, as you mentioned.
So now what we have, Viggles, is a race for first. Sophia Ridpath, don't know what she's managed to do in terms of the strategy. Maybe overfueled that first stint as to not have to take as much fuel for this second stint or whatever it was. Daniel Sedgley now has got a lot of work to do. Sophia Ridpath, that is an interesting strategy. I'm taken aback by that. I thought we were just going to have Daniel Sedgley run away with this win. However, there you can see our two race leaders. Vandal was just there in the background after losing a lot of time in the pit lane. This is spicy now. This is an exciting last 17 minutes. The fight for $60 US.
This is why you love pit stops. That's why you want to implement them, because everything can change in a moment. As well as these two drivers have been changing themselves a few times around. And maybe another switcheroo occurring at the moment, because Dylan now doesn't have to get the overtake done. Matthew does, or needs to, with both the Ferraris that are missing one of the tail lights.
Yeah, well, they've been chopping and changing all race long, as you quite rightly say. They can't decide as to who's quicker. It's like, oh yeah, no, Wykov, I'm quicker. No, Gonis, I'm quicker. Then they swap places, and it's like, no. You know what? I feel like being quicker now, so we're gonna stop again. Yeah, it's a weird dynamic. However, what I am interested to see, of course, is this fight right now: Sophia Ridpath versus Daniel Sedgley. What seemed like such a dominant runaway for Sedgley has now turned into a very peculiar situation for the Englishman to reclose that gap. Of course, they have been running at fairly equal pace all race long. The best lap time, Sophia Ridpath, 2:01. Daniel Sedgley, 2:07. So a differential of 6/100ths of a second in terms of their best lap times. That last lap, we'll see their pit lane times. Sedgley lost 3 seconds in the pit lane. That is a huge amount of time. But fair play to Ridpath for making that lap time up. And now, Sedgley really has to push if he wants to make it 2-2.
I wonder if they got thrown off because of where the pit location was. Because you're ghosting through cars, and trying to spot your specific marker is not the easiest thing to do. Matthew does eventually go in to pit road right now. But yeah, it seems to me like that, because remember, they're all so bunched up together. I mean, they're teammates, but thankfully, unlike Formula 1, they have their own pit box rather than multiple pit boxes.
Oh, imagine that. Could you imagine that in iRacing?
Triple stack at that point, wouldn't it?
Fortunately for iRacing, there is ghosting. If you go to R Factor 2, there's contact in the pit lane, and that is so much fun to watch.
Oh, wow.
Because you just get people pulling out straight away, bang, into the wall. It's great. It's so funny. And I shouldn't say that, because I'm a commentator and I'm very professional. I do my job well. But it is funny. It's hilarious, because, again, you don't see them crash on track. You see them crash in the pit lane. Because it's not something you often see in the world of sim racing. However, again, you're right in saying it's the small foundation things that you have to get right when the pressure is on, when you're racing for the prize of $60 for winning this race. You have to be on it from the start of the race, and again, you have to hit your foundations right, coming into the pit lane, not speeding, hitting your pit box, getting the car stopped, all this, that, and the other things that, again, for anyone else at any other time, so easy, so simple. Put it in a race, put the pressure on. It's not as simple as that. It really is so tricky at sometimes, particularly when you get to the top flight of esports. 14 minutes and 16 seconds left to go in this race, on to lap 15, and well, now running off lap 15, on to lap 16. The fight between Sophia Ridpath, Daniel Sedgley continues, and the gap only 0.3 of a second. Fast lap time last time round, sub 2 minutes for Daniel Sedgley. The first time we've seen that over the course of this event. You can tell he really is pushing to get back onto the back of that #1 machine.
Well, David's well aware of you mentioned that, because 6 seconds and change down the road from this battle. Daniel just put the fastest lap in on the last lap, and that's a 59 club. Not many of the drivers have been in the 59 club. That's the only driver actually who's been in the 59 club. 59.8. Everybody else in the early 2 minutes or mid 2 minutes or 2:01 minutes. Here we go.
Are we going to see the move from Sedgley? A defensive goes Ridpath, maybe defending thinner. However, better to be safe. Running their way through the old hairpin, and again through that kind of a corner, not really a corner. Again, the Americans are iffy. I'm not sure if they count that as a corner. Maybe that's just turn 6A, 6B. Again, I'm sorry to you Americans, and I know this is an American run league.
Yeah,
however,
what about Austria, my friend? there's a little kink in there in the Austrian track as well. So
No, but they don't. Again, they don't call it 10A and 10B and things like that.
That's right,
They're so awkward with corner numbers. It's one of my biggest pet peeves about American circuits. But anyway, I digress because we have a race to focus on already. We're starting to see the pressure pile on to the number one machine, Sophia Ridpath, fourth on the grid, able to get herself into this potential race-winning position. However, you can tell having to go to the right-hand side in towards the hairpin to cover off the move through Le Mans. Daniel, now in towards Le Mans through the right, then the left. This is Le Mans, this quick flick to the right. Daniel Sedgley trying to get the drive off the corner, of course, in the slipstream. These BMWs pretty equal in terms of their straight line speed down in towards Sunset Bend. Not quite a move fabricated on this particular occasion, but both of them will want this win very, very dearly, and there's not long left to get it done.
There's a big difference between the P1 and P2. Oh, that's where that plan is growing. The palm trees. I tell you one thing, if you're going back to the American reference, one thing that is very, very handy, of course, when I was living in New York City, is just the way they call the streets numbers and avenues and stuff. It makes it a lot easier to find your way around. Can you imagine every one of those streets in New York having their own individual name like you do have in London and stuff like that? It makes it a little bit more easier to navigate. Well, London, Sydney, everywhere else in the world too that has street names and not numbers, per se.
Yeah, well, again, the Americans are quirky. They like to do things different. I'll stop ripping into the Americans.
Sounds like somebody was upset about independence. Here we go.
No, it was a slow Tuesday for us. Anyway, we have to focus on the racing action. Daniel Sedgley having a bit of a look to the right-hand side, more so just to make himself known, I think, make a statement, say, I'm here, I will go for a move. You better keep your wits about you, Sophia, because, again, it's that psychological game. It's getting into your opponent's head. How much can you live in their head rent-free to make them focus backwards as opposed to forwards? As soon as they're looking in their mirrors and focus more on you than they're driving, that's when mistakes start to creep in. That's when they lose their confidence, and that's when things can really go wrong. Again, pressure is one of those things you either thrive under or you completely crumble under. And for Sophia Ridpath, she's going to be hoping that she can maintain this pace for the remainder of the race. For Daniel Sedgley, he's going to be hoping that she's one of those that she's not quite a diamond made under pressure. She's more a bit of a coal and will crumble if you put too much pressure on her eventually. Sophia Ridpath trying to negotiate her way through in the S section through the right, and then of course the left. Are we going to see a move from Sedgley down in towards Sunset Bend, the final corner, closing the gap tremendously? Has he got the exit though is another question. Ridpath with a better exit though with the slipstream. Are we going to see a move?
Diamonds aren't necessarily made under pressure, my friend. You can even make them in a microwave if you want, and they're artificially made too, but I know what you mean. I like the reference there, of course. You don't crumble like coal.
I mean, it's carbon. Coal is carbon.
Yep.
Diamond is literally a giant lattice structure of carbon. Anyway, that's my GCSE chemistry done for the day.
We'll all turn into a bit of that eventually, just like the dinosaurs did, to give us a bit of time to go. Unfortunately, these drivers don't have the time. 10 minutes is remaining.
We saw how quickly the 10-minute qualifying went down to 0. Sophia Ridpath, though, this is going to be the longest 10 minutes of her life. And for Daniel Sedgley, this is probably likely going to be the quickest 10 minutes of his life, because when you're chasing, time goes very quickly. When you're leading, it goes very slowly, because you are looking at that clock and you are like, is it the last lap yet? Is it the last lap yet? Is it the last lap yet? I want this to be over. I just want to win already, because it is such a fatiguing experience to lead the way in a race, particularly, again, when there's prizes at stake. And while the tensions are definitely going to be high, is Ridpath feeling the pressure, going defensive into the hairpin, not quite, staying firm on the racing line. And again, that is an art in of itself, is knowing when and when not to defend. Ridpath is hitting the nail on the head in terms of her defense so far, because as soon as you start defending thin air, it is just inviting Sedgley to close the gap and stay close.
Some drivers really like the pressure of being in the lead. It's a mixed feeling between certain drivers. I've asked a lot of drivers over the years in interviews about that. Do you like being preferred the chaser or the chasee? And that's just a different kettle of fish for some people. It's actually very, very hard, remember, too, for the likes of Daniel to be also focusing on his racing to try to get a little bit quicker and quicker, because he's at the mercy, of course, of Sophia. And what Sophia does for the braking points right there, as you can see. So everything can go pearl-shaped, and they can both take each other out. And, of course, that's in the back of their mind.
Ooh, very close. Flirting with disaster to the rear end, Daniel Sedgley. Again, that's the thing that he's done. He's pushed the limits going into Le Mans, not quite got the drive coming out with it. However, very, very close, tucked up behind the rear end of Sophia Ridpath. It's that thing. It's when you get to a corner like Le Mans that leads on to a straight, you have to be slow in, fast out to get the drive down the straight. Because right now, he's closing the gap going in. You saw that. He was able to gain at least a tenth going in, lost about a tenth and a half coming out, however, because the drive off the corner wasn't quite strong enough. And when you're trying to go for an overtake, you have to prioritize the exits and make sure you're hitting your marks, hitting your apexes. Another lap ticks by, though, onto lap 19. 8 minutes left to go in this race. Daniel Sedgley still putting a little bit of pressure onto his teammate, closing the gap again under brakes. You can see Sophia Ridpath is doing exactly that. When it comes to defense as well, you do have to make sure you get your exits. You can see wide line in, slow in, late apex, fast line out, and that is exactly what is enabling her to stay in front. Because when it comes to a straight, you have to be as quick as you possibly can going down it, because as soon as you make a twitch, you lose that momentum. You are just going to be a sit and duck, and it's going to be so easy for Sedgley to find a way through.
Yeah, so a little tiny little mistake going in there. You're in the dirty air, so Daniel will have to lift a little bit earlier and downshift perhaps a little bit earlier. And Sophia, just once again, you park it in the right place, don't you? You say, if you're going to get past me, I'm going to make it difficult. You have to go around me somewhere. And that's when the driver that is defending doesn't necessarily have to stick completely to the racing line. Sometimes you would go off the racing line to cover a little bit more of the middle part of the track, but once you get still, it's going to be a focus on the exits before the straightaways so that you can defend against. That's where generally those attacks will occur. Daniel knows it. Sophia knows it. David can see him at about 8 seconds down the road. He's probably hoping that they do come together so he can just reap the rewards up and steal a P1 back. But at the moment, 6 minutes and change to go. I'm not quite sure. I don't even know if they're in the same chat at the moment too as teammates. But
imagine
no team orders now. That's for sure. It's game on.
I bet it is the most. It's either the most silent chat or the most vibrant. Like they're either loving this or just stone cold. Either you're racing with your mates and you're having a laugh, like, oh my god, I'm gonna get you, or you're not speaking at all. You're both just like zoned in on this race. I know when I was racing with my mates back on the GT Sport days, it was either we're fighting for a laugh or we're fighting to beat each other and prove that we're better than each other. There is the dive maybe from Sedgley. Doesn't really know where to go, rocking around the Christmas tree, inside outside. Chooses the outside. Is it going to be the under and over down that run in towards turn 3? Not quite. So Sophia Ridpath able to hang on, though, having to go defensive slightly to the inside, making that BMW. It's already a very wide car. She's making it even wider through the narrow pass here at Sebring. And she is just making it so awkward for Daniel Sedgley to find a way through. However, practically pushing her as they run their way through Big Bend. Very, very close. Definitely within sending range. 5.5 minutes left to go. Is Daniel Sedgley going to get the lead back? Outside line. Is it going to be the outside line committed, or is he going to dummy his way back? Ridpath on the right hand side. Sedgley trying to get the up and under. No, not quite. Ridpath, wow, she is on fire in terms of that defense. It's such a valiant outlook, and she is hanging on by the skin of her teeth. Sedgley is putting her under a hell of fire.
It's because you saw it just before what I was mentioning. So here compromising a little bit of the actual maximum speed by going off the racing line, but then nothing that Daniel can do to get the overtake done, because got to go around somewhere. Now you're either going to have a fully sen and close your eyes and hope that the car's going to go there. Otherwise, you got to try to do it on straight away, and it just doesn't seem to be working. Covered off. And thank you very much, Zach. I was waiting for the first Christmas reference. Rocket around the Christmas tree, rocket around this track for 4 minutes to go. Lap 20.
Well, there was a thing. I did the VCO Pro Sim Infinity with Luke Crane. He had a challenge. It was, how many Christmas song titles can you fit into your commentary? He got like 15 or something, though he was cheating. He had a Spotify playlist of Christmas songs next to him, and he was listing them off. I was like, fair play. That is respectable. I got like 3 or 5, and that was going off memory. But yeah, managing to fit that one in. I do like that one, particularly when it's around Christmas time. And they're
I'll tell you what, for sure, Zach. There's one if you want to do it. Some of my favorite speed casting and also rap casting you'll see in the old CSGO days. You YouTube that one, and there's some of the speed casters that will get through it really, really quickly. Of course, and when you're watching some of the CSGO, and of course rap casting as well too. So you put a beat down, and you're gonna have to rap the story itself, not just any song, but you have to rap this race. I want to try, Zach. You've got plenty of years of your casting career, and you're already excelled some of the best casters in the world. So there you go. Put yourself to a challenge with that in the future.
I don't know. I don't want to ruin any form of reputation that I've built up by embarrassing myself. We'll see what I get myself into and how much I can risk. Because I don't want to offend anyone. But anyway, no, very kind words. Do appreciate that very much. Thank you very much. However, Bit more precedenting issues at the moment. Just under 3.5 minutes left to go in this race. Only a couple more laps. It is going to be very close in terms of the lap timing that they do get. I think I'm going to go with this is the penultimate lap. So the next time round is going to be the white flag, the final lap of this race. Every corner that goes by is one less opportunity for Sedgley to find a way through.
And it'll be a late dive at this point soon. She'd mentioned. Yeah, we're taking care of you, Zach, because you're going to have... Ooh, there's somebody off into the background completely. That is Stefan. So that's Stefan car. I won't go back to see that one. Stefan's currently running in P10. The other BMW. One of the other BMWs. Because if I take that away, I'm going to miss this action, and we don't want to be missing this action. Because we got to take care of Zach, because obviously James and I will be in retirement. Zach will be barely at his peak of casting. Winning all the semi awards and stuff like that, of course, no doubt in the future. Yeah, just remember us when you're big and when you're huge and famous.
I'll give you an autograph. You can put it on eBay in a couple of years' time.
That's right.
A couple of my teachers have asked me actually. I left school in June. They were like, "Yeah, no, just remember me." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll give you something to sell on eBay." If
you're getting autographs from people auto-rate automatically, exactly, I'm gonna get one for sure. Send it to me as a Christmas card because this is it.
Of course. Anyway, this is going to be very close. 2-minute dead lap times. They cross the line with about 2 minutes 5 to go. So whether iRacing counts this as the final lap or it is going to be the white flag lap, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe James Rep, he's been giving us some insider info as the race progresses. Maybe he can give us a little nudge as to whether this is the white flag lap or not. However, what remains to be seen, penultimate lap or not, Sedgley is running out of time, running out of opportunities to find a way through on Sophia Ridpath, who is putting up a tremendous defense, it must be said. Whatever Sedgley can throw at her, she's been able to thwart, at least for now. However, the stakes are at their absolute peak. The tension is high. And what is going to be the conclusion of what has been so far a very, very incredible display of racing here at Sebring. Sophia Ridpath, you can see riding on the rear end of her BMW. You can see Daniel Sedgley and just how close he is to the rear end. 1 minute 15 left to go, lap 22. Let's all come down to this. And, well, is Sedgley, are we going to see this end?
Yeah, that's going to be the question, is that the send is worth a little bit extra money. It also could send both of them out of the big bucks. And to mention something that I've just lost my memory and concentration on that there for a second. Yeah, the mind's not working too sharp after giving or take now about 10 to 11 hours of casting.
Yeah, well, get yourself a Red Bull, mate. You deserve it. Or some rich energy, actually. And you might be able to liven up a bit. Getting word from Rep that it is not the white flag lap.
That's what exactly. Now I'm remembering. My mouse changes color and will start flashing white if it is the penultimate lap and it hasn't flashed white
that's fancy,
yet.
That is.
It is
You've
fancy.
Got some cool little gadgets.
That is a Razer ballistic mouse that you can get. So a lot of those Razer mice, we're not sponsored by Razer, but if you do want your
I've got one too.
Mouse to flash.
Yeah, nice. Good stuff. So with 12 seconds left to go, this is going to be the final lap. However, while you were talking about your snazzy little mouse, Daniel Sedgley has lost a lot of time to Sophia Ridpath. On to the final lap. The gap now is 1.7 seconds. Could this be a lack of fuel? Maybe. He was hoping that this was the final lap because of how close it was. Again, I'm not too sure. However, it seems that Sedgley has run out of steam in this offense. Sophia Ridpath, one more lap left to go, no mistakes, and she'll bring it home for $60 US.
You're absolutely correct. I was just looking to see if there was any of the replay there of going off track or something like that, but it's not. It's just a complete slowdown, probably because of the fuel.
Or just a slowdown penalty in general. Maybe that is the case. We saw it from Ridpath a little bit earlier on. You can see already weaving in celebration, doing a Nigel Mansell at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Of course, that didn't quite work out too well for him when he celebrated a little bit too early. Love those compilations of people celebrating a little bit too early. However, what cannot be denied is the fact that she has very much earned this almost victory. Touch wood, we will not say anything too soon just yet. She still has half a lap to negotiate. However, starting from 4th on the grid, up to third, ahead of Dylan Gonas at the start of this race, up to 2nd past Van der Waals in the mid stage, and after the pit stop phase was able to get ahead of Daniel Sedgley. She has put on such an awesome display of action and was able to thwart the pressure. She, with only a couple more corners, she deserves this.
Why not? It's been an absolutely great drive, and it's just unfortunate we couldn't get that very, very tight finish there between Daniel. But at the moment, she'll take it any day of the week. 3 positions gained. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, not too bad at all. Sophia Ridpath then is going to come across the line in a few moments' time, weaving around, trying to get the broadcast flash of the lights as well. And that is going to be to the absolute disappointment of Daniel Sedgley, who tried and tried, but it wasn't quite enough to stop the absolutely sensational drive from Sophia Ridpath, who comes through the sunset bend for a sensational victory to take the checkered flag. $60 goes the way of the number one machine of Sophia Ridpath. We ride on board with David Van der Waals. 1, 2, 3 for VR Racing. Sophia Ridpath able to take the victory here in Sebring. Daniel Sedgley comes home in second place to keep his 100% podium record. Van der Waals will take the P3 spot. So $60 for Ridpath, 30 for Sedgley, 10 for Van der Waals. Dylan Gonas will come home a few seconds later to round off the just behind the podium in fourth place. So no cash prize for him, but definitely a good bit of prize to become best of the rest. Wow, I don't know about you. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
It absolutely was. Very, very exciting race. It could have been all, it could have all spread out and had a couple of seconds gap between each other, like a long endurance race, and not much action to talk about. But they kept us very much entertained, which is a pleasure for the drivers doing that. I'm not sure that they are trying to script the movie perfectly for that to happen, because they're trying to race their absolute best. As Clayton will cross the line there and finish in P6. Tom a little bit further back. Unfortunately, didn't see too much of these drivers as they are in their own individual races. Ben Barnes crossing the line in P7. 8, my apologies. And Matthew dropped all the way back down to P9 as power slides out of the corner. Amazing power slide, I have to say. You can't get any cash for that one, but certainly get some credits for entertainment.
Yeah, we're not quite in Japan, but that was a nice Tokyo drift there. Yeah, we're at an American circuit using an Italian car, but doing the most Japanese spin in the world. However, we are going to run you through the, well, this is qualifying results. It was, of course, Van der Waals that took the pole position. Unfortunately, it was only P3 for him. After then 23 laps of racing, you can see the prize pool at the top of your screen, the IGLeague Cash Cup Sprint. 45 minutes on the clock, and it was Sophia Ridpath that took a victory. 7/10 clear of Daniel Sedgley, who will come home in second place. David Van der Waals will complete the podium for a 1, 2, 3 for VR Racing. Dylan Gonas, P4 only for him. Ryan O'Connor rounds off your top 5 with Clayton Davis 6th. Tom Weston, P7 with Ben Barnes, Matthew Vykov, and Stefan Mellis. Your top 10, Jay Smart and Daniel Weston, both unable to make it to the checker flag. And of course, there James Rep, just representing for the IG League, there to supervise, make sure things go very, very smoothly indeed. And before we go to interviews, Biggles, I did enjoy that race. I just want to get your final thoughts and feelings. I don't think we could have asked for much more.
And I was correct in saying my predictions that BMW was going to win the race. Yes,
you were. They got all three all three of them as well. There was 1, 2, 3 for the podium, so they didn't do too bad at all. We are going to drag now David Van der Waals into the commentary booth. We're going to take a quick word with him. The third place man, of course. It was pole position for you going into this race, David. Unfortunately, not quite where you would have wanted to finish. Talk us through the race and how everything happened on your end.
Yeah, I couldn't quite translate my qualifying pace to the race pace, sadly. It felt good in the car in qualifying, and then on full fuel it was just a bit wiggly. Couldn't quite get comfortable. But just gotta give it to Dan and Sophie as well. Like, they were 3 or 4 tenths a lap faster, so the moment I lost draft, I knew I wouldn't catch back up, sadly.
Well, what happened in the pit lane for you? Of course, you had a bit of a moment, didn't you?
Oh yeah, it was difficult. Obviously you can't see your pit crew that well when you're chasing people. Having pole position means that my pit box was right in front of my two competitors, so I couldn't see it. So yeah.
We're seeing it right now on the broadcast. It was a little bit tricky. You had to reverse yourself. Was that the nail in the coffin for you in this race? Of course, you were struggling just a little bit beforehand, but was that then the moment that you realized, I'm going to have to settle for third?
I was struggling before, but I think that indeed was the moment. I just fell back, drove a comfortable pace, and brought back P3.
Cool. And of course, the age-old question we're going to have to ask you. Third place, $10 going your way. What are you going to spend it on?
Ooh, probably Magnicore.
Oh, fair enough. New track on iRacing. Fair. That
Yeah.
was not that was not a question I was going to ask. Well, not a response I was going to expect anyway. But yeah, no, definitely enjoy the new track. Take care, and hopefully we'll see you here soon in the next IG League Cash Cup.
Yeah, will do. I'll be back.
Cool. Awesome.
Right,
Take care, man.
see you.
That, of course, was David Van der Waals. I dragged myself into the interview room for a moment there. We're going to take a word with Daniel Sedgley. Second place for you. It's exactly where you started on the grid. It was looking so good over the course of that first stint for you, Daniel. But beyond the pit stops, you were struggling for pace a little bit. You got back onto the back of Sophia. What happened towards the end? You lost about a good second and a half right at the end of the race. We thought you were going to go for a good old send.
I got a slow down on the second to last lap.
No way. That is really unfortunate. But as an overall for your race, are you happy with how it went?
I was until the pit stop and put too much fuel in.
Oh, really? That was what it was. We were wondering because Sophia managed to gain a good 3 seconds in the pit stop. Before that, you just seemed so unfazable. And of course, it just went all downhill from there, unfortunately. During your battle with Sophia, though, what were your thoughts going through your head? Were you wanting to find a way through? Were you happy just to sit back, or what was the adrenaline thoughts going through your head?
I was trying to get through constantly. We're running the same setup, so just couldn't get past anywhere. There was one corner I was faster at, but she was faster on another corner, so couldn't really get close enough.
Just a bit of ebbing and flowing. It was like, I'm quicker here, you're quicker here, sort of thing. Yeah, no, that is completely understandable. But you know, for you, that was a decent result. You, of course, got first place last time out at Road Atlanta. You still have a 100% podium rate in terms of the IG League Cash Cups. Are we going to be expecting you back for any future ones?
I hope so, yeah. If there's another one.
Awesome stuff. And of course, before you let you go, ask the same question to David. $30 going your way. What are you going to spend it on?
I'll probably get a takeaway. Why not?
I knew it. Good old scram. Where you going to get? You going to get kebab? Kebab. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome stuff. I mean, I was going to say you'd enjoy it with the World Cup for England, but of course we got knocked out a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, awesome. You enjoy your evening, and hopefully we'll see you soon. You take care.
See you later.
That was second place, man. It was Daniel Sedgley. We're going to grab one final word. Sophia Ridpath, your race winner here for the IG League Cash Cup, the second installment here at Sebring. Sophia, what a race from you!
Thank you. Hello. Yeah. I've got no idea what that was, but it was good fun nonetheless.
You came out of nowhere. Your start was great. You got past David, of course, in the initial stages. After the pit stop, were you as taken aback as we were to emerge in front of Sedgley?
Oh yeah, totally. Just the difference in fuel, I think there. We didn't really talk about it too much, and I just dropped a couple of liters, and yeah, we were right out together.
Nice. That was it. It was a great fight to watch. It must have been very, very tense on your end. What were your thoughts and feelings going through that? Of course, we saw one side of the story from Dan Sedgley. He said he was just trying everything he could to find a way through. For you, were you just staring at your rearview mirror the whole time?
No, I was just staring at the curbs, just trying not to get a slowdown, honestly. Because I don't know if you saw in the start, I got a slowdown.
You did, yeah.
And it's so much time. Like it gives you 1.5 seconds, but it's more like 10. It feels like when you're on the track. But
yeah, I mean, you have to slow down for 1.5 seconds, but the time you lose is a lot more than that because of the loss of momentum.
yeah,
But no,
most
you
definitely.
did a great job. Of course, that defense was remarkable. You did everything you could to make that BMW as wide as possible. I'm sure you got on the nerves of Dan a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, just a little bit, I think. But we're friends. It's all good.
Yeah, of course. Were you in a voice chat together?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah. Was it stone cold quiet, or were you having a bit of banter as you went through?
There was a lot of quiet moments.
We thought so. We said it's either going to be the most laughy and jokey voice chat or the most stone cold quiet one you've ever seen before in your life. But of course, very well done to you, very deservedly so. And honestly, only commendations in terms of your race so far. You've managed to take the victory. Of course, starting from P4, that was a really good result for you. Very consistent, very quick over the course of the race. $60 going your way. What are you going to expect to spend it on?
Oh my god, honestly. The only thing I could think of is going on holiday. Just put it towards the pot that I've been saving up. But other than that, I don't know.
Every little helps, I suppose. It's $60, isn't it? It's I don't know, pays for your meal for a couple of days or whatever. But anyway, of course, very well done to you today, as we've said. tonight was your first appearance in the IGLeague Cash Cup. Are we going to expect you back in any future ones?
Oh yeah, definitely. I
Gotta
think
come
you can
back.
expect all three of us back.
Nice one. Awesome stuff. That is definitely what we like to see. Well, of course, take care to you. Very well done today. And of course, Synergy, the winner. Is there anyone you want to give a quick shout out to on the broadcast?
Team owner, Jordi Volumen. Great guy. Thank you very much for the livery. It looks wonderful.
It does. It's a great livery. There were some very striking ones on the grid today, but yours definitely did stand out, particularly as you managed to fill out the podium, all three of you. So yeah, very well done to you. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you very much.
Race winner then, Sophia Ridpath. We have had a word to all three of our podium sitters, and well, Biggles, that was an eventful one. It is nice to have an interview, to have that inside knowledge of what was going on, because again, we can only make assumptions as to what's going on in the head of those fighting for the lead. But to hear it from them, you could sort of tell what it sort of meant to Sophia. She definitely was quite lively, quite happy about her victory.
Oh, for sure. Why not? A victory's a victory. It's the top step of the podium. And you called it perfectly on that one with your race knowledge there, Zach. The fact of the slowdowns, of course, that they had to have. And we knew about the pit stop exactly that cost David the potential win. And also in the VC chat that there was quiet moments. So yeah, a fly on the wall everywhere and know exactly what's going on. It's been
I'm in their walls, mate. I know. I know what we're doing. Anyway, of course, that is going to wrap up our coverage here of the IGLeague Cash Cup Sprint Race here on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. As we always say, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for notifications to stay up to date with everything sim racing. We have a new event every single day of the week. We have definitely something that will tickle your fancy: GTs, F1, open wheelers, radicals as well along the way. Definitely do keep an eye out for what is coming in the near future. It has been myself, Zach Sweeney, and Dean Biggles talking you through everything that has been to talk about over the course of this event here at Sebring. It was the second installment of the IGLeague Cash Cup Sprint, as we say, $100 prize pool. We hope you have all enjoyed yourselves at home. Keep an eye out for anything that is coming here for IGLeagues in the future. Get yourself onto the Discord, get yourself involved in the community. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk you through. You guys definitely do take care. Enjoy your Christmas if you are celebrating it. Take care and goodbye.